The Stormy Daniels story took a strange turn this week when President Trump's personal lawyer, under pressure from a watchdog group, admitted paying $130,000 to the adult actress whose real name is Stephanie Clifford. Now, in a 2011 interview with In Touch Weekly that was published last month, Clifford alleged a 2006 sexual encounter with Trump after meeting at a golf tournament soon after Trump's wife, Melania, had given birth to their son, Barron. A month before the election, October 2016, when that story was about to break in various news outlets, that is when Clifford was paid $130,000 as part of a non-disclosure agreement. Trump's personal lawyer, Michael Cohen, issued denials of the affair while avoiding comment on the payment. That is, until this week, when he was forced to comment. After a complaint filed with the Federal Election Commission claimed that the $130,000 payment was an in-kind donation to the Trump campaign and therefore illegal, Cohen came clean, kind of, and said he, quote, facilitated the $130,000 payment with his, quote, own personal funds, and that neither the Trump campaign or the Trump organization reimbursed him. But Cohen's highly legalistic admissions raise even more questions. And according to Stormy Daniels herself, Cohen has now broke the non-disclosure agreement. Her manager saying, quote, everything is off now, and Stormy is going to tell her story. MSNBC political analyst Jason Johnson is politics editor at The Root, professor at Morgan State University. MSNBC contributor Sam Seder, host of The Majority Report with Sam Seder. What do you make of the Michael Cohen statement?
I mean, I think it's possible a guy like that knew my job is to go and expend 130 grand. And if you are to believe the theory that the Trump people didn't think that they were necessarily going to win the election, maybe he thought that money would come back later when there was less scrutiny about it. It also occurs to me that maybe this was pretty good timing. I mean, to announce something like this. I don't know what the stakes are of Stormy Daniels. I don't think there's going to be a lot of surprises. But if it's not Porter, if I was the Trump people, I'd rather be talking about Stormy Daniels than Porter.
But here's the thing about the way that they have treated this from the beginning, Jason, is the way they've dealt with it has seemed incommensurate to the threat it represents to Donald Trump's reputation.
Right.
That's the part of this I don't understand. Like, that's a lot of money. They don't like throwing around a lot of money. I don't get that part of it.
I mean, look, Chris, if you pay somebody $130,000, they either did something or you're trying to keep them from saying what they did, right? But we're talking about something that happened 12 years ago. It doesn't have a huge impact. Donald Trump will still stay president. He's not going to get impeached because he may or may not have had a relationship with a porn star. But here's the other thing that I think is really strange about this, and this goes back to sort of what happened with John Edwards. After Citizens United, I mean, this just shows how sloppy a lot of the Trump supporters and his campaign team really are. If he had created a super PAC called Hide Your Mistress and paid her through the super PAC, he would have gotten off scot-free. This is how sloppy it is.
Just to be clear, they did create an LLC, right? They did create a Delaware LLC that had this anodyne name that paid it. But he was under pressure to make this admission, Sam, because of the filing. What is very clear here is that the way it's structured is that someone did reimburse him. It wasn't it wasn't the entities that he said it was.
Right. Well, I mean, it's possible that somebody reimbursed him. But if we're going to speculate about the 130 grand, why that could have been such a big number. Look, we have no idea what the arrangement is with Donald Trump and his current wife.
Right.
And it is quite conceivable that there are certain stipulations when people with that kind of money get married. There's often certain documents that are drawn up, prenuptials. Who knows?
That's a very good
point.
That is
the revelation.
There are contracts, and he obviously is someone who I think.
So you don't know. I mean, I think from
So you're saying there's consequences for this beyond the public and political. There might be very intense, intimate, and financial consequences in terms of his relationship with the
I mean, except for the slight intrigue, is there anybody out there whose perception of Donald Trump is going to be changed by this story in any way?
In fact, it would be very hashtag on brand for this to be the case. I mean, the other question is that it is the fact, Jason, weirdly, that this story, which again, it's not surprising to anyone from a sort of brand perspective, although it is when you say the President of the United States is personal henchman paid $130,000 to an adult film actress right before the election to cover up the fact they had an affair or she alleged one.
Right.
It is true, though, that he has not been asked about it, and Sarah Huckabee Sanders, and I wonder the extent to which Stormy Daniels being out in public changes that.
Well, Well, yes. If she feels that now the non-disclosure agreement has been violated, she's going to go out and talk. She's not going to dance around it like she did with Jimmy Kimmel a couple of weeks ago. She will find the largest outlet she can, and this will benefit her. Look, her Pornhub searches have gone up by 375%. I literally looked this up. Like, there will be a benefit to her coming out and talking about this sort of thing. But I think there's also another question here, and it goes back to what we mentioned before about maybe the marriage and maybe what contracts. If we go by sort of Fire and Fury, the book about the Trump White House, if we are to believe, we don't know, that the Trump marriage was on the rocks and that they were going to get divorced as soon as he lost this election, it is highly likely that this might have been something that was done in order to save Donald Trump money if he had a really ugly divorce.
Well, and let's just say this. The other thing it precipitates is, like, where's money moving in what direction? You combine this with the inaugural committee story today. $26 million to someone that was a advisor friend of Melania, including $1.6 million personally to her. I just feel like we haven't learned the full total of which money changed hands where under the Trump campaign.
Well, you know, for us, the story might be Stormy Daniels. But for other people who are investigating the flow of money, the story might be the way in which this lawyer set up this LLC. I mean,
and whether a gift tax was filed and what happened.
We don't know what the most relevant part of this story is. Somebody leaked this. And it was somebody who wanted to do damage to Trump or to people around him.
You're saying the initial story, that's
and we presume it's based upon the notion of who he paid off and the intrigue around that. But it could very well be just
a breadcrumb trail.
A breadcrumb to look at the path of the money.
Jason Johnson, Sam Seder, thank you.
Thank you.
That is all in for this evening. A Rachel Maddow Show starts